How's it going, everybody? And welcome back. I wanted to give everybody on the channel a quick shout out, thank you, and a happy weekend. It is Sunday here today. And as most of you know, I have launched a training company called Rikers Island Training. The link will be at the very top of this playlist in case you are interested in coming to check it out and subscribing to see any of the content that I put out, both video and workbook. One of the things that I am leveraging to use to teach the technologies that I'm going to be teaching on for Cisco is going to be GNS3. Now, GNS3, for those of you that don't know, it is basically it's an application that runs on either Windows, Linux, or Mac. It's relatively lightweight and allows you to basically use the system resources on your machine to emulate Cisco iOS devices. And one of the things that I wanted to do was walk you through the back end of how to actually get the different images operational. So I've got a relatively new version of GNS3 running, which allows us to do a lot of capabilities. So in a very short mini series, 5, maybe 10 videos. I really don't know how many videos it's going to be at this point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through how to set up GNS3 on your local machine. And the reason why I'm going to be walking you through how to set it up is because for CCNP routing and switching, CCNP service provider, CCNA service provider, CCIE routing and switching, a portion of CCIE service provider, and so on and so forth, there will be some level of GNS3 leveraged to demonstrate the technologies on the blueprints that you'll be running into. So I wanted to at least give you a way of playing around with the technologies. Now, I want to be very clear on something. I work for a partner, and one of the things that I get for partner level access is I have a lot of I believe they're called contracts or build to IDs associated to my CCO account, which allows me to download some versions of iOS code you may not be able to. So what I want you guys to understand is every version of code that I have access to, I am legally able to use. So I want to preface that. Same thing goes with any of the viral images that I am able to get working inside of GNS3. I purchased access. I purchased the 1-year subscription to Viral to be able to leverage the capability. And because of the fact that I can download the iOS image to my local machine, Cisco gives me access to that because I pay for it. So I'm able to use that as well. So I'm going to show you guys a couple of different methods to test out your iOS routers, your iOS XR, your layer 2 switch that Cisco has that it's in Viral in case you don't want to leverage the Viral server. I will show you how to get a couple of iOS V layer 2 switches working. And this will allow you to go in here and play around with these technologies. Now, for anything that you'll be playing around with, or if you buy any of the training material from my site and you go to when you log into your account and you go to the GNS3 files page, as you're scrolling through the pages you have access to, you're going to be able to click on GNS3 files. You click on that file, you're going to be able to download any of the pre-built GNS3 labs that I created. You won't be able to download the iOS images themselves or GNS3, but you'll be able to download any of the GNS3 files that I have pre-built. Now, for the most part, you should be okay with most of the versions of code that you'll have access to. So even 12.x code will work for the majority of things. CCNP for routing and switching, and CCNP for service provider. Most things will be able to work in there. There are a couple of caveats, and I will point them out as we go forward. Like for instance, if you wanted to do an EIGRP configuration, if you wanted to upgrade to named mode from classic mode, you need 15.4 code in order for that to work. That command wasn't available in anything earlier than that. When we get into CCNP service provider, if you want to leverage the ability to do virtual private LAN services or VPLS, you need to run the iOS V routers at a very minimum because none of the GNS3 images that I can download support that capability. That's a 7200 VXR with 15.2S7. So but like I said, I work for a partner, so I have access to versions of code that you may not. So your mileage may vary. So if you can't demo the exam, or if you can't test out the technology with what you've got, you'll have to find some way to do that. Whatever method you use, they're on you. I have everything that I've got going on here at home. You can download CSR 1000V in an OVA format and run that in a virtual environment if you have that capability. You could run a couple of those routers inside of VMware Workstation and get them to communicate with each other. So there's multiple ways of getting all this stuff to work. Whatever method you need, I'm going to be showing you a very simple way to get it working here in GNS3. So without any further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to map and get all the routers working. So right now I have deleted everything and I've started over fresh. So right now, if I was to go up here to click on this routers thing, there's no routers here. There's no routers have been configured. You must provide your own router images in order to use GNS3. Okay, very simple, straightforward instruction. Now I don't want to be giving you a eyeball into my home lab environment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and when I go to map these images here, they are located somewhere in my environment, and I will be just mapping them to GNS3 for demonstration purposes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you to get the 3725 operational, and as well as, and I have to actually go look for that version of code. So we will have to go. Actually, I'll show you the 7200 first, because I know where that one's at, and then I will go back and look for the 3725 later on. You could use 3725s for doing a lot of these demos. I just have to go find the code. Worst case scenario, actually, I will go download that while I'm waiting on it. So what I'm going to first walk you through here is how to map an iOS image here. So we're going to click on Edit, go to Preferences. That's going to bring up the general preferences. Now, for just regular iOS, you're going to want to click on iOS routers, and then you're going to click on New. And then you need to browse to wherever the image is that you want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and just drag this off screen, click on Browse, and then browse to wherever the file exists in my local network. In this particular case, the file is located on a remote share, so I'm going to go ahead and navigate to that guy, which I have now navigated to it. I'm going to go ahead and load a service provider train and get that guy situated. I'm going to go ahead and open it up, and it's actually asking me, would you like to decompress this iOS image? I'm going to go ahead and click on yes. It takes a moment. It does decompress it. It did find it, and then it's going to go ahead and load it. I'm going to go ahead and click on next, and it's going to say, what platform is this? In this particular case, it's the 7200. I'm going to click on next, and then it says, what is the default amount of RAM? I leave it at the default. You can modify this up or down as you see fit. I don't know if there's actually a recommended minimal. You can check here, but you can download the 256 if you'd like. It's really up to you and how you want to do it. But just remember that the version of code that you're running does have a minimum requirement that Cisco recommends that you run. So I'm going to leave it at 512. When you download the GNS3 files from Rikers Island, you're actually going to be tasked with downloading the GNS3 file. There's going to be no more than 4 or 5 routers, 6 tops. And the reason why I did that is to make things simple for people that don't have a lot of resources. If you've only got 4 or 5, 8 gigs of RAM, this should be just enough. You should be able to run this no problem with, no more than 2. So I'm going to go ahead and click on next, and it wants me to fill in the slots. So slot-wise, you can go in here and click on 2 fast Ethernet. Let's say we create a 4-port serial card. Click on next. That's going to apply to every different router that we apply. So we're going to go ahead and the idle PC, we haven't actually fired it up yet, so we don't know what particular CPU string we need to send to the CPU and say, you know what, you need to go idle. because what the router is going to do is the router is going to assume that it can use all of the resources that it can get, and I had not be told that it has to only use the minimal amount. So we're going to click on finish, and now the router exists. So now if I go ahead and click on apply and OK, so now if I click on the routers, now the 7200 sits here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag this guy out. It takes a couple seconds for it to start, to get to that point. I'm going to right click and click on start. I go right click again and go console. Bring this guy over. Now the router is in the boot mode. Okay, so the router is booting. So everything that I've done so far is working as it needs to be. Like I said, I won't throw more than 4, 6 routers tops at any given rollout. So when you're playing around with these technologies, you will be able to play with these technologies based off of the size of the topology that I'll have. CCIE will go a little bit larger because it'll require a bit more, and I'll have a different image version. So if I do a show version pipe include iOS, I am using the 1524S. The S train here indicates that this is service provider. So that's the train that I happen to be using. You can change that as you would like. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to change that to be the main line. So I'm going to go ahead and close this guy out, power this guy down. Now he should be stopped. I'll go ahead and I'm going to say delete. Yes, I want to delete. I'm going to go here and I'm click on right click, edit, preferences, iOS routers, click on here and go edit. Click on the router number you just allocated and click on edit. Now it's going to say, well, what image do you want to grab? So if you look right here, it says iOS image path. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to browse for that. It's in the same folder as the other one, just at a different location. Click on open, and I'm going to drag this guy back over. Okay, so do you want to decompress this image? Yes, I do. It's decompressing. And then I'm going to click on, now it's changed the image version. I'm going to click on OK. And now the image has been changed to be 1514M10. I'm going to click on apply and OK. Click on routers. Drag this guy out. Right click, start. Right click, console. Now, this is the image that he's rolling out now, 1541M10. That is the version of code that he's rolling out now. So you can change it as you would like. Beyond that, there's not a whole lot more to it than just that. So, so now it's good to go. I'm going to do a show version pipe include iOS, and I'm running the 1514M10. So what I will be doing is when I do the service provider track, the service provider image is what I'm going to be using. When I do the CCIE course, 1514 for the majority of things is what I'm going to use, and for CCNP. Now, the version of code you use is really irrelevant. You may or may not lose some level of capability. So for instance, if I went in here, I type in L2VPN, L2VPN is not supported in this version of code. I could do L2TP for layer 2 tunneling protocol. If I wanted to do bridge domains for doing something like VPLS on the service provider side, I couldn't do that. I could set up integrated routing and bridging if I wanted to. But at this point in time, there's not a whole lot more to that than I already have set up. So at this point, 15.4M10, if I was to go type in interface tunnel 0 and type in IP NHRP redirect, that command does take. So I have a version of code that'll work. Now, that's for DMBPN phase 3. So these are technology or code snippets that you'll be able to use later on down the road. So that's how you would change back and forth between that the different iOS codes. So the next one we're going to show you how to do here is get the 3725 in here. And the reason why we want to do the 3725 is because it allows you to integrate the EtherSwitch module into it. So I'm going to go back to Edit, Preferences. I'm going to say iOS Routers. I'm going to a new one. I'm going to drag this off screen. I'm going to browse to the version of code that I want to use. And then on the documents, I'm going to go navigate to iOS. I'm going to grab my version of code that I want to grab, which happens to be this version right here. Click on open. I do want to decompress. Now it knows where it's at. I'm going to go ahead next. This is an EtherSwitch router, so I could say that if I wanted to, which is automatically going to do that, but I want to add the module later. So if you do this, it's going to give you a layer 3 module, which is going to look like, actually let me go ahead and cancel that. It's going to look like this. It's going to look like, actually it doesn't even have, oh, it's not even here yet, so it can't use it yet. So edit, preferences, iOS routers, new, grab that image, and open. Yes, decompress it. Drag this guy back over. Next. I'm going to leave it as such. Next. 128 makes a RAM, sounds good. And then the slots I'm going to use, I'm just going to have this as a 16 port EtherSwitch module, and click on that. Now you can change this on a per router basis if you would like. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Click on next. You could say the previous one was all these slots, and then this guy right here. It comes with two onboard fast Ethernet, and these are EtherSwitch modules. Some limited functionality for switching. And then the WIC, you can add a WIC 1T or a WIC 2T. I'm going to add just one WIC 2T in slot 0. Click next. The idle PC, sure, we'll go ahead and run with that. And then we're going to click on apply and OK. And we click on the router. Now we have the 3725. We drag it out. We right click and we go, it says EtherSwitch 1. We right click, we click on start. We right click, we go console. This guy comes over here. This guy boots up really, really quick. And as you can see, he's already pretty much ready to go, almost out of the gate. And as you can see here, we're using 12415T, T4. So now all of my interfaces are up. So we're going to do a show IP interface brief. And the interfaces are up and down at the same time because of the nature of what they've got going on. So everything looks pretty good from there. I could do some basic layer 2 troubleshooting here, stuff like that. But beyond that, that's pretty much how you would go about doing your business. If you don't want to have the module, go ahead and close that guy out. Right click, power off. The reason why you have to power off is you don't have the hot swap. I believe the technology is called OIR, which is online insertion and removal for doing hot swaps. So if I wanted to come in here and say configure, and click on this guy and go to the slots and say this guy right here is just a blank slot, and click apply, click OK, start, and then console, he would just be a regular router at this point. Give that a moment to finish powering up, and there he goes. And you can see that there's some advanced capabilities here. Show IP interface brief, and then that slot is no longer available. That's how you could do that. And that's basically how you would manipulate these guys. Now, just for complete and 100% full disclosure here, let me go ahead and drag out an Ethernet switch. I'm going to grab out one more router, and I'm going to power him on, start, and I'm going to grab this console here. Or actually, let me double click on the switch here, or right click, configure, click on here, and I'm going to delete all these guys right here. Change the type to be .1Q. This will allow you to connect multiple routers to a single switch, and you'll be able to use sub interfaces for your routing, which is what you're going to see a lot of what I do in all of our training. I'm going to click on add, which gives you 4 ports, all in VLAN 1. Click apply, click OK. So now they've got them situated the way that they do. I'm going to go ahead and grab this guy here, go fast 0/0 to port 1, and fast 0/0 to port 2. Close that guy out, right click here, go console, and I can go in here and go config T interface fast 0/0, no shut, interface fast0/0.10, encapsulation.1q10, IP address of 10.10.10.1/24, and then on this side, right click here, console, config T, interface fast Ethernet 0/0, no shut, interface fast 0/0.10, encapsulation.1q10, IP address of 10.10.10.2/24, and now do show IP interface brief, do ping 10.10.10.1, and as soon as the ARP goes through, I can ping switch 1 from R1 from R2, and I have reachability. And I can continue doing this over and over and over again. So it gives me a lot of flexibility to do the same thing repetitively. So that is how I would do this. Now, if you wanted to add more routers to this mix, you're more than welcome to do so. If I do a do show ARP, just to prove, I do have 10.10.10.2 in the routing table or in the ARP cache. I was able to reach him, so do ping 10.10.10.2. I can ping him no problem. Everything works in that respect. So that's how you would go about doing that. So that is how you get regular iOS into GNS3. In the next video, I will go ahead and show you how to integrate the QEMU images in the next video, and that should help get this stuff up and running for you. So that'll be for things like your CCNP service provider, where you need the newer versions of code to get working, and for your iOS XR, etc. Thank you so much for stopping by, guys, and until next time, guys, take it easy.